Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you, although this one might look a little bit different. This is similar to what I've done before. Today we are not going to be looking at specific decks or gameplay, but rather we are going to be talking more as a whole about the Adventurer Token series of cards. So the time that I'm recording this, which is on the 8th, there was an announcement, not within Master Duel itself, at least not yet. That might just be coming a little bit later. Knowing my luck, it's probably going to drop like right after I get done recording this, and I might have to re-record this. But there was an update, according to the Master Duel Discord, there was an update to the, let me actually pull it up so I can read it here. On the App Store that says that the next pack is coming in 2 days, and it's got a picture of our favorite adventurer, rather our favorite water enchantress on it. So that does go to show that if that source is true, that we are seeing the release of the adventurer tokens. Actually, at the time that this video is coming out, the pack will have probably already been out for a little over 24 hours at this point. So like with DPE and like with Sword Soul, I wanted to make this video for people like myself who have not played in the TCG/OCG recently and are kind of in a way new to Master Duel, like new to these cards, and like sure we've heard about them because obviously these cards have been out and we've known that they were going to be competitive, but haven't exactly played with them just yet, or might not really know exactly what they all do and how they work. Like I'm sure it's the case for a lot of people, right? Like you've heard of adventurers, you know they're going to be in a lot of tier 1 decks, you know they're an engine, but like how exactly does it work? What exactly does it do? That is what we're here to talk about today. So I'm basically just going to kind of like condense all of the research that I've been doing lately. Sorry, I bumped the mic there for a second. Yeah, I'm just basically going to condense all the research that I've been doing into one easy to digest format where we're just going to boom pow, go through the cards, go what they do, go over some decks that they go into and some example lists of those decks from the OCG and TCG. So let's start here. I'm on Yugipedia, which I do vastly prefer to like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia. The Yugipedia just tends to have the information more concisely and, in my opinion, conveniently laid out. So here on Yugipedia, and I'll go ahead and of course link all these things I'm going to show you in the description down there as well. So here on Yugipedia, we are on the Adventurer Tokens page. This is just going to go over the archetype as a whole. I'm not going to read all this verbatim though, because really not interested in playing like all the archetypes cards. Like if you go to list members here, it'll show you all the monsters of the archetype, and this is all the spell and trap cards. As you can see, there's quite a bit, but you can actually tell by which legs are purple, like about how many of these cards were actually going to end up. Well, some of them. I just clicked some of these just to see what they did, but yeah, we're definitely not going to be using all of the cards in the whole series there. We're just going to be using the most powerful, a select handful that will enable us to make good use of the Adventure Tokens series of cards. For those of you who are just completely unfamiliar with it whatsoever, basically the idea is that this archetype revolves around an Adventurer token, and we have some cards that make it. It's just a level 4, 2000 attack, 2000 defense token. The lore of the archetype is that, you know, it's based around like an RPG, and the idea is that you, the player, the adventure token, and then you've got your party and your equipment, all that fun stuff. So yeah, so all the effects of the archetype revolve around either summoning the token out or doing powerful effects while you have the token in play. So the main thing that we're going to want to be doing with the engine that we're going to put in is we're going to just want to be able to efficiently and consistently get out the adventure token, and then from there it's actually really easy to search out the things that benefit off of having that token. So we're going to start over here with the Water Enchantress of the Temple. She is a level 3 water spellcaster, 1500 attack, 1200 defense, and she says if you control an adventure token, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish this card from your hand or graveyard, add 1 Rite of Armasir. Wait, hang on. I'm going to actually have to try to pronounce this. Oh my god, new card names. Let's see. Armasir. I'm assuming, yeah, Armasir. That looks right. Rite of Armasir from deck or graveyard. Wow, so your hand. I didn't even realize it was deck or graveyard. I thought it was just deck. Reading cards, good thing to do. If you control an adventure token, you can place a field spell. We don't have to worry about that effect because we don't run any of the field spells that use adventure tokens. So honestly, the main effect we're looking for from this card isn't even summoning her. It's going to be this line right here. This one right here. You can banish this card from your hand or graveyard. Add 1 Rite of Armistier from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So this ends up being a very convenient way to get to your Rite of Armistier, which we'll go ahead and take a look at now, without having to commit a summon of any kind. You can just, again, from your hand or graveyard, just banish the Water Enchantress to add the spell card, Rite of Armistier. So this card says, if you control no adventure token, special summon 1 adventure token, which we see now are Fairy Earth level 4, 2000 attack and defense, like I mentioned. Then, if you do not control Fateful Adventure, you can place 1 Fateful Adventure from your deck face up in your spell trap zone. You cannot activate the effects of monsters on the field the turn you activate this card, except special summon monsters, which, I mean, yeah, that's, oh no, what a restriction. You can only activate 1 Rite of Armistier per turn. This restriction is going to be needed kept in mind, though. And I can guarantee you right now that I'm going to forget it at some point, and I'm going to make a huge misplay at some point because I forget this restriction, even though I just, mocked it. But it does pay to remember this. But so yeah, this is going to be the main way to get the token out. And like I mentioned, Water Enchantress, in flavor, she's the one casting the spell to summon you, the adventurer, to the board. So that's pretty cool too. So yeah, the other cool thing is that because this works by being banished from hand or graveyard, you can actually even play, if you're playing Foolish Burial, you can just Foolish the Water Enchantress and banish her from grave. So Foolish will even also act as a starter to your adventure engine. Now, as you can see, this engine is actually entirely self-feeding. You might have noticed, like, wait, we also get to place this Fateful Adventure card. What's that all about? Let's take a look. Fateful Adventure is a continuous spell card. Once per turn, the first time a monster you control equipped with the spell card, equipped spell would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. You can use each of the following effects of Fateful Adventure once per turn. During your main phase, you can add 1 monster that mentions adventure token from your deck to your hand, then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. And if a monster is no more special summoned, you can take an equipped spell that mentions adventure token from your deck and either add it to your hand or equip it to your adventure token. So, obviously the first effect is just a nice little bonus, right, that might protect some of your monsters sometimes, with the second effect, holy cow. So not only do we get a monster search, but then when you summon a monster, you also get an equip spell search. So naturally, we're going to be playing one of each of those as well. As you can see, Fateful Adventure is really just the bridge from the start of your engine of summoning the adventure token to then your support. And you're now probably already seeing why this engine is as powerful as it is, right? Because it's entirely, like I mentioned earlier, it's entirely self-feeding. All you need at the start is the Water Enchantress in hand, or, like I mentioned earlier, even a Foolish Burial to send the Water Enchantress from deck to the graveyard. You banish her, that gets your Rite of Armistier. Rite of Armistier gets you your token, which then gets you your Fateful Adventure. Fateful Adventure then gets you a monster that mentions an adventure token and an equip spell that mentions an adventure token. Now, as far as which of those we're going to play, let's start with the monster. The main one here, well, really the only one, is going to be, well, I guess because technically you could get the Enchantress if you really wanted to, but that might actually be relevant in certain decks if you need a level 3 monster out for a play. Now that I think about it, so it's not actually totally right to just write that off, but this is the main one we're concerned about here, and that's the Wandering Griffin Rider. A Wandering Griffin Rider is a level 7 Wind Wing Beast with 2000 attack and 2800 defense. That says, during the main phase, if you control no monsters or control an adventure token, you can, as a quick effect, special summon this card from your hand. When a card I actually didn't even realize that summon was a quick effect until I read it out loud just now. That's I had to take a sip of water there. That's actually ridiculous. I had no idea. See, like I said, pays to read the card. In any case, let's continue. When a card or effect, let me emphasize that again, is activated while you control an adventure token, you can shuffle this card in the deck, and if you do, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use one of each of these effects once per turn. So, now this is probably that light bulb moment where it's like, oh, this is why this engine is going to be so good. It is a free Omni Negate, and it is an Omni Negate in the most literal sense. I mean, when a card or effect, it's not even like most Omni Negates are like when a spell, trap card, or monster effect, or something like that, like, right, where it's like encompasses enough things, but there's still some things that might slip by it. No, this is just a true Omni Negate. That will just be able to negate and destroy, mind you. It doesn't just negate, it also destroys. I mean, on top of that too, like 2800 defense, 2000 attack, that's a pretty solid body. Being a level 7 monster can often be a level 7 like free summon, could even potentially be relevant for some decks to use the material for some type of a summon. Although most of the time what the Wandering Griffin Rider is going to do for decks that are utilizing the Adventure Engine is just offer that Omni Negate on the board. We're seeing some decks right now, actually decks that I've been playing lately, and decks that I actually even originally crafted because I knew down the road they were going to be more powerful once the Adventure Engine came to play. Mainly Phantom Knights and Prank Kids. Phantom Knights, just I'm still stuck on that. Phantom, not Phantom. Phantom. Excuse me. Oh my god. Yeah, that's gonna be like my new catchphrase. Phantom Knights. Yeah, no. So Phantom Knights and Prank Kids. These decks we've already seen utilize like multiple copies of Crosshair Designator, right? Because what do they have in common? They can pull off some extremely powerful combos, but that said, they can also be very vulnerable to disruption when conducting those combos. So that's where Adventures and in turn Wandering Griffin Rider comes in, right? Being able to provide that Omni Negate that also doesn't take up like a normal summon or anything, mind you. Like, we haven't normal summoned at all. This Water Enchantress didn't need to be summoned to use her effect. This just summons the token, and then yeah, the Griffin Rider just special summons itself. So like, not only are you only committing one card to get this Omni Negate on the board, plus a 2000 token, mind you, you're getting it for like not even using your normal summon at all. And that's not even the end of it, because we also, if you might remember, get an equip spell as well. Let's take a look at the one we're going to get. That's going to be Dracoback the Rideable Dragon, which I don't know why that name is funny to me, but it really is. Equip only to a monster you control. You can only control one Dracoback the Rideable Dragon. You can only use each of the following effects of Dracoback the Rideable Dragon once per turn. While this card is equipped to a non-effect monster, you can target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one adventurer token you control, equip this card to that target. So, as you can see, this is a fairly solid equip spell, literally being a free once per turn bounce, as long as you have your Dracoback equipped to your adventure token, which, if you might remember, Fateful Adventure here is going to do just that for you, and you can even use each effect once per turn, so you really do actually get to add, you just get to add the Griffin Rider and also equip the Dracoback. So this is obviously going to be a little bit more, I mean, you'll still equip it going first, but it's obviously going to be a little bit more useful going second, because, you don't see the words, at least I don't see the words quick effect here. Keep in mind, I've never actually played this card before. I've only been doing like theory craft and researching, right? So, yeah, this isn't a quick effect, though. It would say if it was a quick effect. So it's not going to be used on your, but that would actually be too insane. I mean, this is already arguably too insane, but that would actually be too insane, right? If this was also a quick effect. Doesn't mean it's not powerful, though. You might also notice that it's only if it's equipped to a non-effect monster, and it's like, non-effect monster, where else have we seen that phrase recently? That's of course going to be with the Tenyi monsters, Tenyis being yet another archetype that play very well with the adventure archetype, not only being very combo based and they very much like to have those combos protected, but you can see even here the non-effect monster clause is going to be very helpful both ways. Dracoback being equipable to like a Monk of the Tenyi as well, for example, but not only that, but the adventure token being a non-effect monster can actually be fairly helpful with making Tenyi plays as well, so there's that too. So all in all, it's pretty easy to see just how all these cards kind of like flow together, right? Again, we start with the Water Enchantress. We're banishing her. We're getting our Rite of Azimir. We're activating that. We're summoning a token and then activating the Fateful Adventurer, which adds the Griffin Rider and then also equips the Dracoback. So again, if you're playing Tenyis, this doesn't even summon the Griffin Rider, just adds it. So you can summon your Tenyi monsters and then summon the Griffin Rider later. Because it's if you control no monsters or control an adventure token. So the engine is actually just that nuts. It really is. So that is pretty much the base of what the cards themselves do. As far as ratios go, from what I understand, jeez, I almost said that in the wrong order. From what I understand, and from what I can like kind of theorycraft, even just reading the effects, like, you pretty much want 3 copies of this and 3 copies of this. Maybe not even always 3 copies of Rite of Artemis here. Might even get away with 2. I don't know. But this is obviously the main card we want to get into. Using the Water Enchantress to basically just get into the Rite of Artemis here. That's going to be the start of our engine. So let's just assume it's 3 and 3, right? Let's just say 3 and 3. Fateful Adventure, we only really need the 1 copy because our Rite of Artemis here is just going to directly get into play. Similarly, the Griffin Rider and the Dracoback, we really only need 1 copy of each because the Fateful Adventure just grabs them right away. So the cool thing too is that even though Wandering Griffin Rider does shuffle itself back into the deck to do the Omni Negate, this Fateful Adventure is a continuous spell card and can be used once per turn. So it's not like, on top of everything else, right? It's not even just like, oh, you get the 1 Omni Negate for 1 card, which would and the equip spell, which would still be really good, mind you. But as long as your adventure token sticks around, you can even like continue to get back and summon the Griffin Rider each turn. So it's like it's an Omni Negate like each turn. It's actually just that nuts. But yeah, so you really only need 1 copy of each of these, again, because those are going to be fetched by the Fateful Adventurers. So, if we're looking at 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, that's going to be a total of 9 cards, which 9 cards into the main deck is a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, that's almost a quarter of the entire deck. But for such a powerful advantage, I really think it's worth it. I really do think it's worth it. And it's not even just that I think it's worth it. I mean, we have data, we have like the empirical evidence that shows that it very much is worth it. So next thing we're going to do now is take a look at some decks that utilize this adventure engine. And what we're going to do, what I like to do anyway, is I like to go to the OCG because Master Duel's ban list kind of closely reflects OCG ban lists, mainly just having like Max C, the formats tend to be a little more similar than Master Duel to TCG, and just take a look at the format in which we had relatively the same card pool as the OCG. Now, it is important to keep in mind, especially by this point in Master Duel, that Master Duel is still going to be a very different format. So we cannot, and also these OCG lists we're going to be looking at are made for tournaments, in particular a best of 3 format. So especially if you're like me and you pretty much only play like ranked ladder, like best of 1, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you're making the proper adjustments for best of 1 ladder and even tournaments too, because again, Master Duel is just going to be an entirely different format. Like at this point, when Master Duel first came out, it was only very minor changes from a certain OCG ban list, but now by this point, we have major changes. The format is entirely unique, is not one that the OCG or TCG ever saw. So it is important to keep that in mind. I'm here at Road of the King. This is another website I like to use specifically when referencing OCG metagames, although they do also have quite a few useful resources for Master Duel as well. I will once again link this in the description along with the Yugipedia page that I referred to as well. But I like to refer to this metagame report in particular because this was the last OCG metagame report before, I believe it was Battle of Chaos came out, which brought out some new support, which shifted the metagame slightly. So this particular report, the deck lists on it, should be some of the more refined ones that are going to be representing the format that we're about to go into, or I guess that by the time this video comes out, that we are into in Master Duel. So mainly we're going to be looking at the Phantom Knights and Prey Kids decks here in this metagame report. We're just going to look briefly at the list. Again, we're not going to want to copy these card for card, but just kind of see the ratios and how the deck changed as a result of adding these cards and all that fun stuff. So, okay, Phantom Knights here. Yeah, Foolish Burial is an excellent additional point of access to Rite of Artemis via Water Enchantress. Yep, we talked about that. A little bit mediocre when we just did a Phantom Knight monster. Pulled out a side decking. See, this is talking about a slight increase of Flaunderies in the metagame. So again, it's important to keep in mind like exactly which part of the metagame, because from what I understand with Flaunderies, and that'll be its own video that we'll talk about Flaunderies, but they're kind of missing like one piece of support that they're probably not going to get in this pack to be like, upper tier. Like from what I understand, again, at least this was the case in the OCG. you know, they're going to be a little bit more like maybe, I don't know, not like, when I say lower tier, I don't mean that's like rogue necessarily, but they could be, I don't know. We actually see them represented in, I'd call this probably like, you know, lower tier 2, upper tier 3 status here in this OCG metagame report, given the, you know, play rate of it here. Excuse me. But again, we'll talk more about that in the actual Flauneries video. This one is going to be, once again, about the Brave engine. So, okay, we're looking here. This is the Phantom Knights list. If that gets annoying, I can stop. Don't worry. But, yeah, so we have... Looks like about the ratios I was anticipating here. Well, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I didn't look at this first and do my research, but, you know, even when doing my initial theory crafting, it made sense, 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1. But, yeah, we're seeing the ratios here, like 3 Water Enchantress, 3 Rite of Armistier. There's the 1 Griffin Rider. There's the Fateful Adventure. Yeah, Fateful Adventure. And then here's the Draco back as well. So, looking at the rest of this list here, we're seeing a lot of Forbidden Droplets, and that's actually kind of a theme that I noticed in a lot of these lists that were playing the Brave cards, and it makes sense to me, right, given that, well, you know, Brave engine, I mean, I might bounce between calling it Brave and Adventure. Brave, I think, was the OCG unofficial name, but, you know, Droplet is a card I would expect to see a lot more of once again. As we get into a format with the adventure tokens that's going to present negates on the board a lot more often. We saw that back when Drytron was really big, right? Pretty much every deck was playing at least 2 droplets because, you know, they would spit out the Herald and, of course, among other onboard effects. And the best way to stop that is with Droplet, because you can ensure that not only will that not get negated, the Droplet itself, but also that you can then, you know, have your effects for the rest of the turn. So, you know, the droplets are going to be another, I think, recurring trend, probably on Master Duel as well. We're seeing the crossout designators too, in addition to that. It looks like, you know, mainly what got gutted from the Phantom Knight deck is Phantom Knight deck. I'll try to stop, I promise. Mainly the main thing that got gutted from the deck here was kind of the extra extenders. Like, we're not seeing any of the danger cards in this deck. We're not seeing many of, like, the... Actually, are we seeing any of the Burning Abyss stuff here, now that I think about it? I don't know, actually. Wow, look at that. Yeah, no tour guides. Basically, just a lot of our extenders are gone. We're pretty much, like, bare bones playing, like, the Phantom Knight cards, the Brave cards, and, like, hand traps. Of course, we're still utilizing the DPE engine here as well. That definitely makes sense to me. And looking down here at the extra deck, it still looks fairly standard. I mean, even though we're not playing Burning Abyss monsters, we're still playing Cherubni. And, looks like we still have the artifact. Oh, the Scythe is in the side deck here. So, yeah, Phantom Knights being able to Scythe lock on top of doing adventurous stuff is definitely pretty powerful. This build here is 42 cards, and with Phantom Knights especially, I'm probably going to end up over... Well, I mean, I'm already at 41 cards with even my adventures Phantom Knight build, but I can definitely see myself ending up with 42, maybe even 3 cards once I start adding all the adventure stuff. I'm definitely... You know, at the time that you're watching this video, actually, I'm probably... you know, getting some good duels and practice in to show off some of these adventure decks here within the next day or two with some gameplay there, as opposed to just the theory crafting. I'm kind of... Another reason I like to make these theory craft videos is to not only, again, cover the basics of the deck, so that way you have a basic understanding going into it, and I don't have to explain it, you know, at the beginning of every video towards the beginning of when new cards come out, but then it gives me that time to play test with the deck, to get those duels, and so I can get the gameplay footage out. Some good quality gameplay footage out, because, like, if I tried to just do it, like, the same day that the cards came out, I'd get the games out, but there probably wouldn't be many quality ones, so always like to provide those for you. So I guess kind of with the gist of what I was getting at there is, I don't know if like this 2 Nibiru, obviously we only have 2 Fusion Destiny and Master Duel. I'm just like thinking about the ratioing of these cards, and maybe some other cards I would want to add if I was, you know, playing this with more of a best-in-1 format in mind. I guess I just don't know that I would run necessarily like 2 Nibiru. Like, definitely 1 at the very least, for sure, but it seems a little... I don't know if greedy is the right word to try to get away with that, but, I mean, the rest of the ratioing makes sense to me here, so... There's Phantom Knights there. Now we're going to look down here just to Prank Kids. Let's see, this is just talking about the player who was playing the deck. Oh, he was the World 2018 rep. Nice. So this should be a quality list we're taking a look at here. And once again, we're seeing the same ratios for the adventurer cards here in the Prank Kids deck, right? We're seeing the 3 Water Enchantress, the 3 Rite of our Messier, the Griffin Rider, the 1 Fateful Adventure, and then of course the Draco back as well. Yeah, here's the 3 Forbidden Droplet once again. Yeah, this card is definitely, like, if you haven't crafted yours yet, it's definitely a good time to invest in the Forbidden Droplets. I think they're actually available in whatever secret pack has Dark Lords in it, so you do actually have a decent shot of pulling them if you're trying to go for them out of the pack instead of using craft materials. Let's see here. I mean, honestly, this looks very, very standard otherwise as far as like Prank Kid stuff goes, right? Of course, we're seeing the call buys and the crossout designators. We got the Thunder Dragon Fusion. I'm just like looking for like little stuff like that. Like, oh, this one's only playing 1 Prank Kids place. Yeah, I can definitely see cutting down on Prank Kids place. It's probably the most redundant card that Prank Kids is currently playing. I've seen other builds. Like, we'll actually take a look at another, a different build from the TCG of Adventure Prank Kids as well. Let me take a look at the extra deck here as well. Oh, I don't know what card that is at all. That must be a card that we don't have yet. I literally don't even recognize it. The Link Spider makes sense if we're, relying more on the token, or like we're playing the token, right? I've actually kind of like almost thought about playing Link Spider sometimes in this deck, but that is really only comes up when you get into Beard. It's really niche, but it can be useful for like pivoting into an Anaconda and then going into a DPE. Oh, we're not actually playing DPE in this iteration. Okay, that makes sense though. Given that, like, we still want to, like, this deck, unlike Phantom Knights, probably does need to stick around 40 cards, or as close to 40 as possible. I would want to stay with 40 cards with Prank Kids, so it makes a little more sense to me to cut the Destiny, because you might think, like, well, I could just slot the Destiny, but that's still, like, 4 main deck cards, and you're trying to keep it down to 40, and you're already adding 9 for the Adventure engine. I can definitely see how that might be a bit much there. But, yeah, I don't know, the rest of this looks fairly, like, standard / solid in line with what Prank Kids was already doing, so this should be a pretty seamless transition. This is going to be a little bit more like a little bit more changing how the deck plays, not too much to include the Braves, but Prank Kids I feel like are probably going to be a little bit more seamless in that. Now I wanted to look for, because I thought there was a report that included I'm looking for like a Brave Adventurer. Brave Adventurer, gee, that's nice. What I meant to say was like a Adventure Tenyi deck. I thought I saw one in, maybe it was this report. No, this is still from pretty early on, because that's going to be another archetype that definitely sees. Maybe we can just find one here, even though this is a little bit more. No, that's all the way down there. I'm just trying to find one that's going to have a deck list for it. I might end up cutting this out if this takes a little bit too long here. Okay, here we go. I see the Brave Tenyi. So let's take a look at Adventure Tenyi. Now this list, it does, you do want to keep in mind that this is from a little bit later, after more like Flaundery's stuff has come out, or like that card I mentioned. So the format's a little bit different from the other lists we're taking a look at, but let's just take a look at a brief example list of what like Adventure Tenyis would look like, right? Again, we're seeing the same ratios here as far as like, the 9 adventure cards, and then it's kind of in a way almost like just a scaled back version, a little bit of Sword Soul Tenyi, because we're seeing the Taya and the Long Yuan here. But this is actually going to be more kind of in line playstyle wise with what Rose Tenyi is doing right now, except we're going to take out the Rose engine, which is not bad, but mostly just extenders, and then add the Omni Negates and also extenders for Tenyis because of the Adventure being an non-effect monster of the Adventure engine as well. And you can see from the extra deck down here that we're doing some pretty familiar stuff to Sword Soul Tenyi. I mean, the extra deck is pretty much the same, so it's kind of like doing the same stuff, you're just getting there via a different route. You got the good old Hulk Dawn combo down here, as well as, yeah, just a bunch of good extenders. This is definitely, this is the deck that I'm going to have to do the most practice with, because it's the one I'm least familiar with, but I'm definitely going to be trying this one out as well. So before I end off the video here, I also wanted to take a peek over at a slightly different Prank Kids Adventure list. This is going to be the first place list from Elijah Green from YCS Charlotte earlier this year. believe it was this year, right? Wasn't it in like January or something? I'm pretty sure it was this year. Anyway, yep, same ratios. We're seeing for the adventure cards here: the 3 Water Enchantress, the 1 Griffin Rider, 3 Brights, and then 1 of each of these. 3 Forbidden Droplet once again. Yep, I can only imagine how many more droplets we're going to be seeing this time around. This one did make room for crossout, which is interesting. Although this is definitely, TCG is definitely a much different format. One thing I wanted to point out that is being run here that you might end up seeing more of is this Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, right? So this is a hand trap that we haven't really seen too much of yet in Master Duel formats, but can actually be pretty useful against the Adventure Engine. Because this doesn't negate cards, but after cards on the field activate their effects, it'll send them, well, it'll destroy them basically. And the other cool thing about Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is that unlike the other kind of like hand traps of Ghost Girls, this one's not a zombie, it's a psychic and can be used in the field. So if you're playing Emergency Teleport, you can actually even e-tele this card out and then use this effect. So you might be wondering, well, if this card doesn't negate, how is it useful against adventurers? Well, it sends to the field or destroys cards that are already face up on the field that are activating their effects, right? That can be useful against the Faithful Adventurer here. It could also potentially be useful against the Wandering Griffin Rider, because if you don't shuffle the Griffin Rider back in the deck, then they can't use it later. Same with obviously Faithful Adventurer. If you manage to get rid of that, then they can't keep recycling the Griffin Rider. Also useful against the Equip spell, the Drakerback, the Rideable Dragon. Now this one you do have to be mindful that it might just re-equip if they have the adventure token out, but could potentially be useful against that depending on the scenario. Again, that's kind of an interaction I more have to theorycraft because I haven't actually played that interaction myself, but again, just from what I can tell and from what I've read online as well, that seems to be kind of the reasons, I guess, why Ghost Ogre might see more play. It's kind of like, I don't know if it'll see a whole lot more play. I think it'll kind of be like Ghost Bell when DPE came out, when it's like, oh, everyone was like, oh, everyone craft your ghost spells for DPE, but like now we're seeing Ghost Spell like maybe here and there occasionally, but not too much more than we did before. I don't know, I would guess the same is probably going to happen with Ghost Ogre, but maybe adventurers will have enough more of an impact in Master Duel than DPE did to warrant more Ghost Ogres than we were seeing Ghost Bells, so who knows. Okay, so I think that's about all I've got for this video. Thank you for watching to the very end of the video like this. I very much appreciate that, especially as well to those of you who are commenting and subscribing, as those are all very helpful ways to support the channel. I hope this video was helpful. Again, this is more intended for those who are like me in that we got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Via Master Duel, but have not actually played in any TCG or OCG formats with these cards yet. So again, yeah, before I just jump into gameplay and deck profiles and just kind of assume everybody knows what's going on with these engines, I just wanted to make sure that I got the information out so we're all on the same page, basically. And again, those of you out there might be conducting similar research that I did, trying to figure this all out before you commit to buying the packs or crafting the cards to build the deck. So again, I just wanted to provide a slightly more condensed version of all the research that I ended up doing. So yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching, but I think that's about all I've got for this one. So without further ado, this is XLEX signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.